phone calls. I don't need any phone calls right now. I need a break from phone calls. So sorry if that just got cut off. I was trying to silence it. I didn't realize I wasn't in the mode where people can't get in touch with me. So my apologies. This will be part 2. To catch everybody up, if you're just watching this, is saying we're going to talk about Apple being sued. The CEO of Reddit making $193 million compensation. And I was talking about my personal story, how my family is going through a very, very devastating tragedy. And in all reaching out for help, I was talking about my work, Starbucks, and their cup fund. So that's where I think I got cut off. And if you're just joining, or if you have subscribed, please hit the notification bell, because I can just give you my word. It's 5 days a week. I cannot promise what time these days of the week. So if you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified when I go live. Ample Thought, and you're back, Ample Thought. Thank you. It sucks getting cut off like that. So I'm going to just recap real quick. Starbucks has this thing called fund. C-U-P. I-C-U-P. That's a great old joke. Spell like cup. Use that with your kids. They like it. It's a funny one. It's a kid-friendly joke. That's a good kid-friendly joke. Spell out I-C-U-P. Or I-cup. Don't say it like that. That ruined the joke. I ruined a kid's joke. Jesus. So Starbucks, you can apply for this thing called the Cup Fund. Caring unites partners. The Cup Fund essentially is funded only by workers. It's not like a 401k. It's not matched by Starbucks. It's strictly workers putting into this. That's what the fund is. Starbucks has bragged about giving out $15 million over the course of 30 years, which that's suspect too. But if you Google or just try to look up how much is in the Cup Fund, you can't find that. And what I was saying is, like, the police policing the police. These corporations that say, hey, we pay for a team to moderate what we're doing and to hold us accountable. I mean, if that was true, companies wouldn't care about whistleblowers, right? There wouldn't be whistleblowers. So let's be very suspicious of all these corporations, okay? You need to. Don't believe everything they say. Remember, these corporations are not your friends. They are not humans. They exist for one thing, profits. And they'll find any and every way to make more and more money. That's all they exist for, to make more money. They're not here to be your friends or help you out. They're here to exploit for this money's sake. So I applied for this Cup Fund, which what I was saying is, I have to say this. This is my, the little asterisk. This is not a complaint, okay? This is a critique. There are different things. I can be grateful for this Cup Fund and that such a thing exists, but I can also call out the imperfections that it has. Let's just call them that. And what I was also getting to is, if you don't like critiques, then get out of America. You leave. Everybody says, oh, if you're going to complain and whine, you hate it so much, you leave. And I flip that around. I reject that. I say, you leave if you can't take criticisms. America was built on criticisms. Why do you think we got amendments? Some people are so stupid. If you ever hear somebody that says, oh, you don't like it, get out. You tell them, you can't handle the criticism, you get out. Snowflake. Got to think of a new term. Raindrop. Actually, I like raindrops. Wouldn't want to call people that. All right. So essentially, this is just a critique. It's only $1,000, so it hasn't kept up with inflation. That's the most you can apply for. So me in a housing crisis, I'm like, great, $1,000. Okay, thank you. We need it, but it's like, this is $1 billion corporation, the largest corporation in the history of the world. And it's not even their money. They just get to completely control it. It's our money. I've donated to it. Like, it's our money coming back to us, to the workers, to help us in times. It's almost like a savings account, but the savings account, imagine if you got a savings account and the bank had to approve. They were like, you can only take out $500 and we have to approve your situation. So I applied for it, and just today it said, like, your thing has been resolved, which, can you guess what? I didn't get it. They kept saying, we know you have a notice to vacate, but, and I don't want to get too much into this, but you don't have a new lease, so we can't give you any money. I thought, do you understand how the rental market works? Like, people want you to give money up front just to take it off the market, and then you can go through the application process. Like, you need a lot of money just to rent, probably just as much money to try to buy a home. And then buying a home, it's almost, well, depending on your rate, but it's almost less expensive to live there. So I couldn't believe I was denied trying to ask for my own money that would allegedly help me in a dire, tragic scenario. But it just made me think of all the critiques that I'm very grateful that this exists. But the fact that the corporation, there's no transparency. Starbucks has no transparency. They don't show you how much is in the cup fund. And who knows really where that money is going. They completely control the money we give to them. In fact, that's why I've kind of stopped giving it. Because when you hear about these tragic stories that workers applying for this small amount of money, $1,000, are getting denied, you start to go, well, that's kind of ruthless, you know? So this company completely controls it and, you know, has a hard time giving the workers back the money they put into it. The way I think you could fix it is show the transparency. Every time you make a donation, it shows the total, whether it's 15 million, 100 million, or 20,000. You show the total, and then allow people in that region to vote on it, or even collectively, you know, the company could allow the workers to vote on who gets it. I mean, there's ways to do it, and if that sounds tricky, trust me, this corporation has done much more to avoid taxes and loopholes through the tax code. They've done much more. They've spent so much money on union busting that they have lawyers who could figure out these ways. They have tech people who could set up. They have their own website set up. So this is not impossible for $1 billion company. I think it should be more democratic, and I think it should be transparent in how much is in there. And where is it all going? Truly, if they're denying people, where's this money going? Or if they're denying people, they should say, like, the cup fund is running out, here's the total. We should be able to see it. It's surreal. So that's my critique, not complaint. I think there's potential for it. So Apple is being sued by the DOJ. Oh, before that, I want to talk about Steve Huffman. The CEO, Steve Huffman of Reddit, I love Reddit. But their moderators are unpaid. They're just, you know, I don't know how you qualify as a moderator. Probably got to have a good Reddit resume. Steve Huffman just took a $193 million compensation package. And what befuddled me about that is he has people that are essentially working for him that are volunteering to do it. And he doesn't even think of, like, some of that money could maybe be, again, this is a guy who, created Reddit. He could figure out a way to compensate some of these unpaid volunteers just to show his appreciation. It's amazing how much money can make people ruthless or just selfish or so much more greedy. Because if you look at anyone's area that you live in, you'll see the, you know, median income. It's usually between 50 and 150, maybe $200,000. It would take you, 10 to 20 years just to get $1 million, and that's if you didn't spend any of it. And this guy just took $193 million. This is not money he could spend in a lifetime. Look at Elon Musk, case set, point set match. That guy has billions of dollars, and he can't piss it away quick enough, lose $44 billion on Tesla or Twitter, and he's still probably richer than before. His wealth is just exponentially growing. So, like, there is an amount of money where, like, you're okay. And this guy just ruthlessly took that money and it's like, yeah, piss off to everybody who volunteered and helped make my website what it is today. I need this much. Like, what are you going to do with that much money? At what point are you like, 190 is good, but 193 can really help me make sure my cyborg grandkids can eat? What is going on? And these people feel like, you know, they're ordained, they're anointed to have this much money. They truly do. It's just sad because there's other people who are just trying to afford to live. I hate that saying, but they're just trying to afford to live. So Apple's sued by the DOJ, Department of Justice. And I'm happy for this. It's an antitrust lawsuit because they're essentially in a monopoly. And they taught Apple's defense to this suit is if we can't control our walled garden, that's what it's called, a walled garden, because they have walls so nobody else can get in. They have this Garden of Eden where, you know, everything works perfectly within the Apple universe and nobody can penetrate it. They totally stand alone, but they control the market. I mean, I'll get into the numbers in a minute, but this is a company that made $200 billion in iPhone sales, $85 billion in wearables. Like, they are making a ton of money, and they're complaining about, you know, not being allowed to be a monopoly. Now, I was looking up. There's 331 million Americans in America, citizens in America, I should say it like that. And then I looked up how many people have iPhones, and you can see the charts over time, the graph over time. And just last year, 136 million Americans have an iPhone. That's essentially 1 out of 2. Because I'd also like to think that out of the 331 million Americans there's a lot of babies. You know, I see babies everywhere. There's got to be a lot of babies. And we know kids are getting iPhones, babies aren't getting iPhones. So we got to think of the babies, right? So out of the 136 million that have iPhones, that would make it almost 1 in 2 people in America have an iPhone. And Apple's complaining that they're not allowed to be a monopoly. And what Apple does, if you don't know, is like they're limiting more third-party wallet apps. So their iPay, Apple Pay, whatever it is, won't allow certain other things. They're limiting, or they take a huge cut from apps and they limit what apps can come in. They're limiting what cloud streaming services. They're limiting all these things, and basically they're gatekeeping. So they are trying to force a monopoly. You either have to play by their rules or be approved by them, and if not, oh well, SOL. And this is, remember, the company that has 1 out of every 2 people in America have their phone. So if you're just trying to start something else, and wasn't this the land of the free, allowed for competition? I mean, you can't do that when somebody owns 50% of the market. So I think all the land of the freers, the home of competitioners, would be all for this. Not wanting everyone to just have to, I mean, think about that. If 1 and 2, I mean, in another 10 years, it's just going to be everyone. And then what do? You have no more freedom of choice. Right now, you barely have freedom of choice. But I want you to think about how it comes into play. Like, imagine if you bought a car. And there's also these right to repair laws where Apple, you basically have to get it fixed at Apple if you want anything fixed. And if you want anything done on Apple, you have to use their parts. So let's equate that to buying a car. Imagine you bought a car and something happened to the brakes. And you had to buy the brakes from, let's say, Ford. You have to buy Ford brakes. The only brakes that will work on your car. And then you wanted an oil change. You had to get Ford motor oil. And that's the only thing that will work in your car. And you have to also take it to the Ford dealership if you bought a Ford. And then if your tires started to get low, you had to get the Ford tires at that Ford dealership. And then if the windshield wipers went out, you have to make an appointment for that Ford dealership to get the Ford wipers, because anything aftermarket might not work, and they also have to be sold at the Ford dealership. I mean, this is what we're talking about with Apple, but somehow people are just okay with it. I'd like to think we're not okay with it once we start to understand like the severity of the situation of this $200 billion in iPhone sales. They're not hurting. But Apple's defense is, if we can't do what we're doing, if we can't continue to stay a monopoly, almost completely 50% of the cell phone market, if we can't keep doing that, we won't be able to meet customers' demands and keep bringing them products. I would like to think if you keep controlling the market, no other new technology will be able to be brought to the market. Really, customers' demands will be at your whim. You will have no competition. So keep an eye on this landmark case by the Department of Justice going after Apple, because it is vital. 1 in 2 Americans, we got to count for the babies. Out of the 330 million Americans, got to figure there's a lot of babies. So out of the 136 million iPhone users, I'm figuring that's 1 in 2 people have an iPhone. That's scary. That's not choice. You don't have much of a choice if the market is completely controlled by one company and everybody is bending to their whim to be able to work on an iPhone. Apps, wallets, clouds, if they're all just trying to get to the biggest piece of the marketplace, it leaves the competition by the wayside. So, important case. I'm really sorry that this live stream got cut in half. It sucks, and I didn't want it to. My apologies. So you get two today. So go watch the first part. I talk about a lot of things, and then come back to the second part. Also, if you are a nurse, a police officer, firefighter, if you're in public service, go check your student loans. Biden apparently forgave almost $6 billion in student loans. I'm praying it's for you. I think it's for the good of a nation if we don't gatekeep people to higher education. I think if we want the smartest, the best tech, the best doctors, the best whatever, we need people educated, and we're gatekeeping them because they don't want to take a lot of debt. If we want more doctors, guess what? Make college more affordable. Make it free. Why do people not want the smartest people? I mean, this has been figured out in other countries. And I love when people are like, not my tax dollars. You're not going to go to school for free on me. You understand, you're paying taxes anyways. Do you know what? We don't get a receipt. In some countries, they get listed what their taxes are going to. We're not getting health care. We're not getting education. Where do you think those tax dollars are going? We're subsidizing all these corporations' employees because the corporations aren't paying them. So we're doing these horrible things with our money. Weapons, helping corporations. Why not have that tax money be reinvested in the people? It's shocking how people view things, but that's why I'm doing this Class War, the struggle live stream, because hopefully we can start the discussions, we can open this up, we can get some people to maybe see things differently, or they can voice their opinion. I always encourage you, leave something in the comments. I thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm sorry, part 1 got cut off. Part 1 is right before this, so go watch that, and then you can continue here. And thank you to everybody who's lending some support in this time. Thank you all the new subscribers. You have been a silver lining for me in this tragic, devastating time for my family. I really appreciate you. And hit that subscribe button and notification bell. I go live every weekday. I'm Rob. Thanks for checking out the Class War, the struggle. Peace.